Good evening. Welcome to the David Stenboss Show, the evening edition. We're going to be looking at pornography tonight, lies and chains. No, we're not going to be looking at pornography, but we're going to be talking about pornography. James chapter 1, verses 13 through 15 say, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Then, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death." Don't talk on this subject, preacher. It's inappropriate. Oh yes, we must, and let me tell you why. The world talks about it, and no one is not touched by it. It's high time the church take a stand. But I don't use porn, and I'm sure my spouse and kids don't. Good, then you won't be on the spot at all tonight. Now, before I get into this, I need to let you know that the statistics I'm going to give are several years old. I could not find any recent statistics on this, so I'm going to go with what I could find. Pornography is big business. According to the U.S. News and World Report, the industry 5 years ago grossed an estimated $10 billion. That figure represents an expenditure of about $30 per person in the United States. That's more than is spent annually on gambling, and it has the same links to organized crime. Porn is now as American as apple pie and has found a place in every corner of our society, including the church. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's now a $12 billion a year industry in the U.S. alone. This amount is much larger than Hollywood's domestic box office receipts and larger than all the revenues generated by rock and country music recordings. Americans now spend more money at strip clubs than at Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows in Branson, or regional and nonprofit theaters at the opera, the ballet, and jazz and classical music performances. Combined, it is today the number 7 grossing industry in the U.S. The revenues of the porn industry in the U.S. alone are bigger than the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball combined. Worldwide porn sales are reported to be $57 billion. To put this in perspective, Microsoft, who sells the operating system used on most of the computers in the world, in addition to other software, reported sales of $36.8 billion in 2004. Most of the profits being generated by porn today are being earned by businesses not traditionally associated with the sex industry, by mom and pop video stores, long-distance carriers like AT&T, by cable companies like Time Warner, and by hotel chains, which now earn millions of dollars each year by supplying adult films to their guests. The United States is now, by far, the world's leading producer of porn, churning out hardcore videos at the astonishing rate of about 150 new titles each week. Each year, Americans spend more than $150 million ordering adult movies on pay-per-view. Playboy's website now averages about 5 million hits a day. Telephone sex every night between the peak hours of 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. Perhaps 250,000 Americans pick up the phone and dial a number for commercial phone sex. There are now more outlets for hardcore pornography than in the United States than McDonald's restaurants. The introduction of pornography to the information highway has made home computers the fastest growing and primary mode of distribution of illegal pornography. A study by Nielsen Media Research indicates heavy traffic into the Penthouse website from corporate networks. Use of this website did not taper off at all during office hours. In just 1 month, employees from IBM, Apple, and AT&T visited the site 12,823 times. Compaq Computer dismissed approximately 20 employees, each of whom had accessed sex-related websites more than 1,000 times. Excuse me. 50% of all search engine requests are for porn of some level. 25% of porn websites use popular names in their title bars, such as Barbie, Disney, Nintendo, toys, and games, so as to attract the right crowd to their sites. In Oklahoma City, as they eliminated over 150 sexually oriented businesses, the rape rate declined over 27% in the 5-year period. During that same time, rape in the rest of the state continued to rise over 19%. A study in Phoenix, Arizona found that neighborhoods with a pornography business experienced 40% more property crime and 500% more sexual offenses than similar neighborhoods without a pornography outlet. Many men and boys Christians included, are caught in the deadly attraction to pornography. Barna says that as many as 1 in 4 pastors struggle with or are addicted to pornography. We can conclude, therefore, that in each of our churches, a sizable percentage of men in our pews on a Sunday morning are in the heat of this battle. Josh McDowell's website indicates no percentage of teen male participation in porn. It only says virtually all teen boys look at it. 12 to 17-year-old boys are the leading demographic of users of pornography. According to the Justice Department, in 1998, there were 28,000 X-rated websites generating $925 million in revenue. Within just 3 years, this number increased to 280,000 X-rated websites. 60% of all website visits are sexual in nature. An MSNBC survey in 2000, the #1 search term used at search engine sites is the word sex. Users search for sex more than any other terms such as games, travel, music, jokes, cars, weather, health, and jobs combined. The study also found that porno was the 4th most searched for subject. Alexa Research, a 2000 MSNBC.com survey found that as many as 80% of visitors to sex sites were spending so much time tracking down erotica on the computer that they were putting their real-life relationships and or jobs at risk. Until they discovered cybersex, most of these people had no problems with sexual addiction. According to the survey's author, Al Cooper, a sex therapist at the San Jose Marital Services and Sexuality Center in San Jose, California. 77% of online visitors to adult content sites are male. Their average age is 41 and they have an annual income of $60,000. 46% are married. Forrester Research report in 2001, a study of 7,037 adults, 2/3 of those who visit websites with sexual content say their internet activities have an effect on their level of sexual activity with their partners, though 75% report masturbating while online. DivorceWizards.com. The U.S. Customs Service estimates that there are more than 100,000 websites offering child pornography, which are illegal worldwide. Red Herring Magazine, in January 18, 2002, Hollywood currently releases 11,000 adult movies per year, more than 20 times the mainstream movie production. LA Times Magazine, in 2002, 39 million homes received the adult channels in scrambled form, while the number of children with potential exposure to such images is about 29 million. Morality continues to decay. Barna Research Group, November 3, 2003. 1 in 4 American adults surveyed in 2002 admitted to seeing an X-rated movie in the last year. National Opinion Research Letter, 50% of hotel in-room movie rentals are porn movies. The LA Times, in February 2nd of 2005, the average time a porn movie is watched in a hotel room is 12 minutes. Time.com, March 29th, 2005. The average teenager spends 3 to 4 hours per day watching television, and 83% of the programming most frequently watched by adolescents contains some sexual content. Gary Rose, CEO of the Medical Institute, as reported by Focus on the Family in July 8, 2005, 42% of songs on 10 top-selling CDs in 1999 contained sexual content, 41% of which were very explicit or pretty explicit. Family News and Focus, July 2005. Last year, Comcast, the nation's largest cable company, pulled in $50 million from adult programming. All the nation's top cable operators, from Time Warner to Cablevision, distribute sexually explicit material to their subscribers. But you won't read about it in their annual reports. Same with satellite providers like EchoStar and DirecTV, which is owned by Hughes Technology, a subsidiary of General Motors. How much does DirecTV make off adult products? They don't break the number out, but I would guess they probably get a couple $100 million, maybe as much as $500 million off adult entertainment in a broad sense, says Dennis Malkapine, a partner in Malkapine Associates, who has tracked the entertainment industry for over 2 decades. I would think it's probably more than what their overall profit is. The other areas are losing money, but that's making money. Then there are the big hotel chains, Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, Sheraton, and Holiday Inn, which all offer adult films on in-room, pay-per-view television systems, and they are purchased by a whopping 50% of their guests, accounting for nearly 70% of their in-room profits. One hotel owner said, "We have to have it. Our guests demand it." From a CBS News special report in November of 2003, the porn industry employs in excess of 12,000 people in California. In California alone, the porn industry pays over $36 million in taxes every year. Bill Lyon, a former lobbyist for the defense industry turned lobbyist for porn, as quoted by CBS News in November 2003. In a Kinsey Institute survey, people were asked, "Why do you use porn?" 72% said they use porn to masturbate for physical release. 69% to sexually arouse themselves and or others. 54% was out of curiosity. 43% said because I can fantasize about things I would not necessarily want in real life. 38% said to distract myself. Most girls who enter the porn industry do one video and quit. The experience is so painful, horrifying, embarrassing, and humiliating for them that they never do it again. Luke Ford, quoted by CBS News, a study of university networks by Palisade Systems found searches for child pornography at 230 colleges nationwide. The research revealed that 42% of all searches on file-to-file sharing systems involved child or adult pornography. The study also found that 73% of movie searches were for pornography. 24% of image searches were for child pornography, and only 3% of the searches did not involve pornography or copyrighted materials. On April 1st, 2003, this is from the Des Moines Register. Queen's University, Queen's University in Belfast conducted a survey of 350 businesses in the U.S., UK, and Australia for the porn filtering firm Surf Control. 28% of those questions said they had downloaded sexually explicit content from the web while on the job. U.S.-based employees were slightly less likely to do so than workers in other countries. The survey also found abuse to be slightly higher in organizations with more than 500 employees. Of the 31% of employees who distributed sexually explicit material from work, 36% worked at companies larger than 500 employees. 27% worked for companies with 20 employees or less. MSNBC, September 6, 2004. In May 2004, Business Week printed the results of a ComScore network survey where 44% of U.S. workers with an internet connection admitted to accessing an X-rated website at work in the month of March 2004, as compared to 40% of home users and 59% of university users. More than 30% of 1,500 surveyed companies have terminated employees for inappropriate use of the internet, while only 37.5% of companies use filtering software. WebSense Incorporated and the Center for Internet Studies in 2000. Men, to look at porn is to commit adultery, according to Jesus Christ. Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 28. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. But is it only about men and boys? No. 17% of all women struggle with porn addiction. 1 of 3 visitors to all adult websites are women. 9.4 million women access adult websites every month. Females? Yes. Some would be lesbians or bisexual, but many are thinking they can learn what men want by viewing porn. And let's not forget that many women, also victims of pornography, both those who are sucked into exposing themselves for pay and those of you who do it for free. Do it for free. What do you mean, Pastor? Just look at the definition of porn. Exposure which leads to sexual arousal. It's time for church girls and Christian ladies to stop trying to fit in with every style and realize we ought to obey God rather than man. And the Bible teaches modesty, innocence, and saving that unveiling for your wedding night. It's time for girls to realize that males will look if you'll show it, and that he'll take off the rest of your clothes with an eyeball undressing if only you hint at what else is under there. You're advertising. You better be ready and willing to deliver the merchandise on your billboard, or if you won't freely give it to him, he'll take it with the imagination you sparked in his mind, or maybe forcibly. 38% of adults believe it is morally acceptable to look at pictures of nudity or explicit sexual behavior. Morality continues to decay. Barna Research Group, 3rd November 2003. 57% of adults believe it is morally acceptable to have sexual thoughts or fantasies. Morality continues to decay. Barna Research Group, 3 November 2003. 38% of adults believe there's nothing wrong with pornography use. Morality continues to decay. Barna Research Group, 3 November 2003. 42% of surveyed adults indicated that their partner's use of pornography made them feel insecure. Marriage-related research, Mark A. Yarhouse, the psychiatrist, Christian Counseling Today, 2004, Volume 12, Number 1. 41% of surveyed adults admitted they felt less attractive due to their partner's pornography use. The same volume, August 7, 2006, 50% of all Christian men and 20% of all Christian women are addicted to pornography. 60% of the women who answered the survey admitted to having significant struggles with lust. 40% admitted to being involved in sexual sin in the past year. And 20% of the church-going female participants struggle with looking at pornography on an ongoing basis. From the results of a Christian Net poll reported by MarketWire.com, in December of 2000, the National Coalition to Protect Children and Families surveyed 5 Christian campuses to see how the next generation of believers was doing with sexual purity. 48% of males admitted to current porn use. 68% of males said they intentionally viewed a sexually explicit site at school. Roger Charman of Focus on the Family's Pastoral Ministries reports that approximately 20% of the calls received on their pastoral care line are for help with issues such as pornography and compulsive sexual behavior. A 1996 Promise Keepers survey at one of their stadium events revealed that over 50% of the men in attendance were involved with pornography within 1 week prior to attending the event. In a 2000 Christianity Today survey, 33% of clergy admitted to having visited a sexually explicit website. Of those who had visited a porn site, 53% had visited such a site a few times in the past year, and 18% visit sexually explicit sites between a couple of times a month and more than once a week. The stats are higher among pastors in anonymous surveys. Out of 81 pastors surveyed, 74 males and 7 female, 98% have been exposed to porn. 43% intentionally accessed a sexually explicit website. National Coalition survey of pastors. Seattle, April 2000. In his book, Men's Secret Wars, Patrick Means reveals a confidential survey of evangelical pastors and church lay leaders. 64% of these Christian leaders confirm that they are struggling with sexual addiction or sexual compulsion, including but not limited to use of pornography, compulsive masturbation, or other secret sexual activity. In his book, The Sexual Man, Dr. Archibald Hart revealed the results of a survey of some 600 Christian men on the topic of masturbation. 61% of married Christian men masturbate. 82% of these have self sex on an average of once a week. 10% have sex with self 5 to 10 times per month. 6% more than 15 times per month, and 1% more than 20 times a month. 13% of Christian married men said they felt it was normal. 34% of female readers of today's Christian Woman's online newsletter admitted to intentionally accessing internet porn in a recent poll. In March of 2002, Rick Warren, the author of The Purpose-Driven Life, Pastors.com website, conducted a survey on porn use of 1,351 pastors. 54% of the pastors had viewed internet pornography within the last year, and 30% of these have visited within the last 30 days. 47% of families said pornography is a problem in their home. Focus on the Family poll from October 1st, 2003. In a survey of over 500 Christian men at a men's retreat, over 90% admitted that they were feeling disconnected from God because lust, porn, or fantasy had gained a foothold in their lives, as reported in an article on Pastors.com by Kenny Luck. In March 2005, Christianity Today published the results of a study called Christians and Sex in their Leadership Journal. 680 pastors and 1,972 laypersons were surveyed with the following results. 44% of churchgoers want to hear more scriptural teaching from their pastors on the subject of sex. 22% of pastors feel that they should spend more time on the topic. 85% of pastors say they speak about sexual issues once a year, while 63% of churchgoers say their pastors do so. Among churchgoers who say they want their pastors to preach more about sexual issues, 47% say their pastor speaks about it once a year, an even bigger difference of opinion. A CTI analyst was quoted saying, "Perhaps this desire for more biblical exposition on sexual issues exists because pastors are not speaking forcefully or clearly enough, while exposure to sexual images and messages in today's media is ever more heightened." 57% of pastors say that addiction to pornography is the most sexually damaging issue to their congregation. Almost 9 in 10 pastors reported counseling a layperson on sexual issues once a year or more. This was written by a pastor. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I had a hard time believing that half the men in the church would really be accessing porn. So in early 2004, I asked the church where we attended at the time if they would be willing to take a survey. They agreed, and in the survey we asked the man, when was the last time you looked at pornography? The church was made up mostly of young families, and the idea that many of the husbands and fathers I sat next to every Sunday were dabbling in porn, I could not comprehend it. Surely, I thought, the numbers would be lower. It can't be half. Not my church. Here's what came back. 25% had viewed porn within the last month. 44% within the past 6 months. 61% within the past year. Don't talk on this subject, preacher. It's inappropriate. Seems to me it's quite an appropriate topic for tonight, at the very least. Pornography is corrupting the church and destroying our nation. Without action, the problem will only get worse. But I don't use porn, and I'm sure my spouse and kids don't. Still feel that way? It's true. They will probably deny it. And so, guess what? that means they'll have no problem with the new accountability and protection rules you're going to implement. No, you cannot have a private computer in your room. You have to be off the computer by 9 p.m. And if you're going to stay up until 2 a.m., it won't be with the TV or PC privileges. Cable boxes, sexually explicit videos, and video games, MySpace, Facebook, internet chat rooms, and webcams. Set time limits, get the programs at the bottom of the sermon that aid in accountability, though they aren't completely sufficient without you, the adult, taking responsibility. It's extremely dangerous, like an intruder in our homes, and so Christians must become involved in the battle against pornography in order to protect themselves. We are in the midst of a battle. Indeed, this is spiritual warfare. We must have a battle plan to fight pornography. Our battle plan must include our recognizing pornography for what it is, who the victims are, and how to bring healing to them, and strategies to turn the tide regarding the devastating influences of pornography in our country. What is pornography? Pornography is a perversion that attacks everything God cherishes most. Man is made in God's image. Therefore, the theological foundation against pornography begins with the premise that every human life has dignity and is sacred. That's Genesis 1:27. Job 31:1. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? Pornography is an enemy which destroys the innocence of children. It has been estimated that approximately 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 7 boys will be sexually molested before the age of 18. The relationship of pornography to child sexual abuse is compelling. 77% of those who molested boys and 87% of those who molested girls said they were regular users of hardcore pornography. UNICEF reports that 1 million children each year are forced into prostitution and used to make pornography. Mark 9:42. Levels in hell? I think so. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he were cast into the sea. Pornography is a lie. Pornography says the best sex is outside of marriage. Pornography promises what it cannot deliver. Proverbs 9:17 tells us that stolen waters are sweet. However, Proverbs 14:12 tells us there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Who are the victims? Those who are addicted to pornography are victims. Males, there is such a thing as the pleasure of sin for a season. We see that in Hebrews 11:25. However, according to James 1:13 through 15, lustful sin in its fullest form brings forth death. Death to our self-esteem, to meaningful relationships, to moral absolutes, and all too often, literal death to the innocent as well as the guilty. In an odd twist, exposure to pornography leads to a lower net return each time, which is to say that the more pornography one sees, the more explicit the images must be in order to excite interest. His eyes roam across the image of unblinking faces, leering at women who make no demands upon him, who never speak back, and who can never say no. There is no exchange of respect, no exchange of love, and nothing more than the using of women as animal-like sex objects for his individual and inverted sexual pleasure. Men, to look at porn is to commit adultery according to Jesus Christ. Matthew 5:27 through 28. You have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Males are victims of porn, and so are females, both those who are sucked in to exposing themselves for pay, and those of you who do it for free. Just look at the definition of porn: exposure which leads to sexual arousal. It's time for church girls to stop trying to fit in with every style and realize we have to obey God rather than man. And the Bible teaches modesty, innocence, and saving that unveiling for your wedding night. It's time for girls to realize that males will look if you show it, and you'll take off the rest of your clothes with an eyeball undressing if only you hint at what else is under there. Your advertising. You better be ready and willing to deliver the merchandise on your billboard. And if you won't freely give it to him, he'll take it with the imagination you've sparked in his mind. Those who've been addicted are victims. Those who have been harmed are victims. This is one woman's story. My husband began using porn as a teenager. What once was an adolescent hobby became the other woman in our marriage. At first it was our intimacy that suffered. Then his pastime grew into an addiction, which then started to include more serious forms of adultery. He was going to strip bars and sleeping with prostitutes. He was often late with poor excuses. I noticed our money disappearing. I never suspected he was spending nearly $500 a week to feed his addiction. Me, I felt responsible, ugly, ashamed, alone, and hopeless. Why would he look at another woman unless I wasn't pretty or sexy enough? Friends rejected my idea that his porn use was ruining our relationship. They told me to be sexier, more sexually responsive and available so that he wouldn't look elsewhere. I tried all these things only to find they didn't work. I ended up feeling like a failure as a wife and a lover. Now I know it wasn't me. When we got help, I found out his pornography use began before our marriage, as far back as his youth. Not only was it not my fault, it had nothing to do with me after all. After much counseling, we both understand that he entered our marriage thinking I would cure all his sex problems. No wonder he was so disappointed and angry. We're still together. We are living proof that a pornography or sex addiction does not have to mean the end of your relationship. Families, wives, and children are directly affected. Women who have been raped and sexually abused are impacted forever. Babies are born with sexually transmitted diseases.
I'll be going after school tomorrow and checking on it.
Okay, sorry about that. Someone was at the door and I had to answer it. Where was I? Okay. Families, wives, and children are directly affected. Women who have been raped and sexually abused are impacted forever. Babies are born with sexually transmitted diseases. Young people are scarred for life. Marriages are broken beyond repair. The dignity of women is degraded as they are viewed as mere animals, pets, bunnies. Teens are warped into never knowing what real love is and never experiencing true intimacy without emptiness. What action can we take as believers to turn the tide of pornography in our country? The First Amendment refers to the freedom of speech, not freedom of speech for obscenity, pornography, or indecency. You can apply the same to consumer fraud, conspiracy, libel, slander, or false shouting fire in a crowded theater. None of these are protected by the First Amendment. In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Miller v. California that this much has been categorically settled by the court that obscene material is unprotected by the First Amendment. That's the same court that voted in favor of Roe. We should speak out at every opportunity. There must not be many speaking out. We are to take a stand on our knees. Since this is a spiritual battle, the war must be waged through prayer first and foremost. The parable of the Good Samaritan provides our marching orders. We need to be the ones who minister the healing balm in the lives of pornography victims. We need to be salt and light in our culture. We need accountability to make sure the problem doesn't exist in our own household. The internet has brought an interstate highway of pornography into every community with exit ramps at every terminal or personal computer, including those at school or, God forbid, in their own bedroom. You need to know how to check on where a personal computer has been taken on the net. What's more, you need an internet filter for yourself, even as so much as you can stumble upon it unintentionally. And the same goes for the TV and magazines. Accountability is the key. It's not just about whether you need help in this area. It's about being above reproach in a world in which the stats do not lie. We're going to close out with some music here. Stay safe, be blessed, and stay in the Word. And stay away from the pornography sites. And I hope this message has been uplifting to you.